Hello friend, welcome back to Netcode-Hub channel. I'm Frederick and I'm happy to have you here. In this video, we are going to look at how to implement policy-based authorization in .NET 8 Blazor with interactive WebAssembly. Let's follow this diagram in implementing this policy-based authorization. Assuming you have a small company whereby you have the administrator. For this administrator, he can view all pages. So pages that manager can view, administrator can view these pages. Pages that user can also view, administrator can also view these pages. Manager has list page. So manager can see list page. Manager can see detailed page. Manager can update page. Manager can also delete. So this delete is not about deleting the page, but rather having a delete page that he can delete any item from the list. He can see the details of any item. Let's say it's an employee. He can see the list of employee. He can see the details of what each employee. He can update an employee in this page, and he can delete an employee in this page. So manager can perform these CRUD operations. The same thing applies to admin. Admin can also perform the same CRUD operations. Now let's go to user. User can see only detail page. And this detail page is his data. So when the user logs in, go to a detail page, we can get the ID, and I'll loop through or search through the list page, list of employee, and I'll fish out only his data. So a user cannot see the list all employees. He can see his data here. He can then update the data. He can view an extra pages, contact page and about us page. Contact page and about us page are not seen by a manager. Manager cannot see or cannot have access to these pages, but admin has access to these extra pages. Already, admin has access to detail and update from the manager section. So we need to add contact page and now about us page access to the admin. If you have this small application that you want to create for a company or for yourself or for learning purpose, how can you achieve this? You can achieve this in two ways. One, you can use role-based authorization. Two, you can use policy-based authorization. Now with role-based, all that you need to do here is to create your three roles: admin role, manager role, and user role. On the list page, you add only admin and manager because user cannot see this. On detail page, you add user, admin, and manager because three of them can see detail page. In update, admin and manager, user as well because user can also update it. Then in delete, it's only admin and manager. When it comes to the detail page, you have it here already, so it is set. You add all rows, update the same, we've done it here. When you get to contact page, you add only admin and user, and about us, the same admin and user. So you can see that when using row based, you have to add on top of the page, you have to add the rows to each. Later on, if you want to add any other row, unless you go to all the pages and I'll update them. That's the reason why we want to use the policy base. Then the policy base, how can we achieve this using the policy base? We have to check. Let's set all the pages which are common to all rows. Let's set them and I'll create one policy for it. So when you check here, detail page cuts across manager section and also user. and update page. So these two pages, we have to create a policy for them. So admin, manager, user, policy, 3 of them. They can have access to detailed, they can have access to update. So these 2 pages, all of this can have access to. We create one policy for. Second policy, manager can access list page, delete page. Admin can also do same. So you create one policy, admin manager policy, to handle the list page and delete page. Bear in mind that whatever the manager can see, admin can also see it. So you have 2 policies now. And the last policy, we're going to create one for contact page about us. Manager cannot see, so it is admin and user. You create contact page and about page. That's the about us page. And here, admin and user can also see. So at the end of this, manager can see what has been listed. User can also see what has been listed. And overall, admin can see everything. So we're going to create 3 policies in this to handle this small diagram here in application form. Alright, so before I jump right to Visual Studio to create a project, make sure you subscribe to this channel and also hit on that bell to receive updates as soon as I do upload new video. I offer mentoring to people who are interested in .NET, Blazor, WebAssembly, Server, .NET 8, Mario Blazor Hybrid, Web API Service, and etc. So if you're interested, check the video description and I have an email in there. You can write to me through it. Alright, so let's get going. Now launch a Visual Studio, and here we're going to create a project in here. Now the name of this project I'm going to give here is Demo Blazor Interactive WASM Policy Authorization. So this is interactive using WebAssembly, and this is policy authorization. But before we can achieve this policy authorization, there must be authentication. So we're going to work on cookie authentication. Now if you want to grab a whole video on implementing cookie authentication, I'm not going to explain much in here, but check the video description. I'm going to leave a link in there, and which will guide you through how to implement cookie authentication, custom cookie authentication in web app, well, that's a Blazor interactive WebAssembly render mode. Okay, so let's click on next, and here we're going to choose WebAssembly, and that is it. Click on create to get this project created. If you want to grab the source code too, check this video description and it will be available. So let's build this project and see if everything is working as expected. So build solution. After that, we're going to install packages that we're going to be using on both the server and on the client. Alright, so project built. Then I'm going to right click on the server, then unload project, and now in here I'm going to add the following packages, and that is the EF Core, SQL Server, and our tools. So we need identity framework, we need EF Core itself, SQL Server, and our tools. Let's save this. I click on this, then update or reload project with dependencies. Let's get these packages installed. So aside from that, we also going to install another package to the client. So we'll click on the client, and now let's go to unload project, and now in here let's add component.authorization. Save this and reload this project with dependencies as well. So at the end, all these packages are going to be installed. Let's build projects again, and let's make sure these packages are well installed. Now this is done. Let's close this. Solution Explorer. Now we're going to work on the server. We have to create our DB context. So let's create the folder known as data. In that, we can create a class and name it as AppDB context. Well, you can give it a name you want. Now within the AppDB context class, we are going to create a constructor. And you're going to inherit from DB options. So you create a constructor, you pass in DB context option, you specify the class name in here. Also, we're going to inherit from this identity DB context. And now here we need identity user. So here we are not creating a custom identity user. We want to use a default one. So this is going to give us all the databases from the identity manager. Okay, so you can save this, or you can click on this to use the constructor version if you want to do that. And this feature is coming in from C# version 12. Okay, but let's maintain this. Once you're done, we can go ahead, go to our appsetting.json and then create our connection string. So solution, appsettings, and on top here, we create our connection string. And the server here is policy. Let me make this passing policy DB trusted connection to true trust server certificate. Now that we are done, we need to register this in the program.cs file. So let's go to solution. Then from the program section, we can now register a connection string. And we grab the name default from the appsettings class that we created. We grab the connection. Okay, when we are done, let's register a cookie session or cookie service. So in order to do that, we need to specify the service down here. So we have service.authentication. We specify cookie scheme. We add identity cookies, and also we add the identity call specified in the class, that's identity user. And also we have to specify the framework store by implementing or adding the AppDB context class that we created. We are going to sign in, so we need to sign in. And since we need to provide tokens, we also add the default token provider. Okay, so we set this. Now, once you're done, let's go in there, build solution, and perform migration. Okay, so we go to package manager console, you go to tools, you get package manager console is here, you can get it from here. Let's add migration. So this is going to build it, then it's going to create a file for us. After that, we're going to update database. Okay, it was spelled wrongly. Alright, so this is done. Now you have a database table created. So let's go in there and create our login and register component. First of all, we need to create a class to handle the properties that we need in registration. So let's solution, then let's add a class, a folder to this, and I'll name it as model. Now with this model, we're going to create login model. So login model. And now the login model, we need just what? It's not email and password. Yes, maybe if you want to customize this, well, you can use any of your choice. Now aside from that, we need register. So let's also create a register model. And now this register model, admin is going to create an account for manager, is going to create an account for user so they can log in. In a system or in a company application, no one has access to create an account. It is the administrator has to create an account for you. Then you can now log in and update your password and your info, isn't it? Yeah, so it is the same thing. So when admin is creating an account, he must select row. He must add row. And this time around, you're going to have 3 rows. You're going to have the manager, the admin itself, and the user. 3 rows in a small company. Isn't that nice? Yes. Okay, so we have this. Let's save all. So let's go in there to our components, pages. And in our pages, we're going to create the first component. And this is going to be login page. So we have a login page. So in our login page, I have a UI design in here. I'll make this source code available as well. So if you want to grab it, or if you want to create your own customized one, it's also available. Check it out. So we are injecting the user manager, we inject the sign-in manager and a navigation manager. You know this already, isn't it? Good. Then we have please login. And now we have a simple edit form, which has this. Since we are not using render mode in here, this is going to be render in a static way. So we have to implement the method as post enhance form, so we can catch this method as soon as we click on submit. And we have this email and password. You see that? When you come down here, you will see we have this login, and it's coming from this login model. We need to implement. So this is the name of this project is demo. So let me grab the name here, and from this login page .models. That's right. So we're going to have our model here. Let me close this and open it again. And now when you come here, so before we log in, we're going to find the email first. If it is not, you want to return. But in case it is, we're going to check the password. And in case it's a seat, then what we're going to do here is we're going to password sign in. We pass in the application user, and this time around it is identity user of what this result from this user manager. Then you pass in the password, and it's locked out, and it's remembered. We set all of them to false. If it's a seat, we're going to navigate to the home page before load the application. Very simple for this login component. Now let's go to the register component as well. So we're going to create a component, and I'll name it as register. So from the same pages, we want to add a new register component, and name it as register page. Well, you can give it any name of your choice, okay? So you can decide to use register page. Okay, so in register page, you also want to have a simple registration form. So I'm going to copy this and paste as well. Now when you check this, we have the simple form for that, and we have the same method which is posting to register model. We have a register model also. This is a model, and this is a method that's going to hit as soon as you click on submit. In that, you have email, we have row, we have password and confirm password, and button known as submit button. When it comes to this side, here we create an instance of the sign up, and that's a register model. And there's a class. I just changed it recently because I was having some issues with it. So change from register to sign up, and now it's working. Okay, so with this, you create a new identity user. And in that, you want to fill up all these 3 properties: username, email, and password. Aside from that, you want to find it and see if user is already registered. If not, we're going to create user. After creating user, we populate a list for claims for that specific user. In that, we have 3 claims. We need the email. We need the same email for name and an email purpose. And also we need a row. Remember that when creating an account, you need to add row. So we add the row, either it might be administrator, manager, or user. So we specify that from the edit form, and it's going to get fixed in here. After that, we loop through the claims and I'll add them to the table. We navigate to login for the user to login. That is it. Okay. Now, once you're done with these forms, what can we do again? Let's go to solution, and in our routes .razor, we're going to update our route. to include the authorized CRUD view, and maybe authorizing, you want to display something small to the user. So with this, let's go in there and create our policies. So in here, from the program.cs file, we can add our policy down here. So in our policy, builder.services.add authorization builder, and add the first policy. This policy is for all admin manager user policy, and here a person must get authenticated is you must have a role of admin, manager, or user. So from there, we add admin manager. This means that the component that you're going to apply this policy is limited to admin and a manager only. And that's what we have in here. We want to add admin user, and it is limited to admin and our user. So 3 policies, and very simple one. Okay, so let's save this. So when dealing with authentication in Blazor Interactive WebAssembly, we have to create the server side, and the server side is responsible for populating or gathering the user authentication state, and now set it to the client using the component state. Then the component in the client, it has to also implement from auth provider. It receives the component state, the claims on the component state, and also utilize it in the application. Okay, so we need to create one state for the server and another state for the client. So it is setter and our getter. Okay, so let's do that. So in here, let's create a class and name it as server auth provider, and I'm going to create it. So add a class, and this is server auth provider. You can give it any name of your choice. Now within the server auth provider, it has to inherit from server authentication state provider, okay. So once you have in here, we are just going to, I think I need to grab this. If you want to know more, I'll just put the video link in there. You can just go in there and now have a look. But this is what we're doing. We create a component state, we create a subscription, then we have our authentication stacks created in here. In that, you have on authentication state change. So when it changes, this is what you want to do. And on persistent async, you want to also do this. And disposes, we have to unsubscribe to the state change. All right, now we need an user model or user info class to handle this. And now this class, we need 2 properties: username, email, and username. Now it is the same. We assign the value of what email to each. We want to, in case you have any extra data that you want to retrieve in the client, that is where you pass in here. Now this, we are sending this state, this component state, we are sending this to the client. So in the client, we are going to try take as JSON. Here we persist, so we are saving to this component state. And now that means we have to create a class known as user info. So let's generate a class for this, or we can grab this one. Then let's put this in the client, because we're going to be using this also in the client. So user info, and now with this user info class, we need only 2 properties, such as the email and the username. Okay, so and here let's include the namespace. So we persist, we are saving into the component state, and we retrieve the claims from the user. So here, as you can see from this, we want to get the principal from the user, and we check if the user is authenticated. That is where we retrieve the email. So in case you have any other claims that you want to retrieve, you have to specify them here, and now persist them as JSON. You create a component or properties to handle them, and now when you get to the client, we're going to retrieve them. I'll teach you that, or I'll show you that when we get to that side. Okay, so that's very simple. That's all that we need to do. So let's include this, and that is all. So yeah, if you want to check this, the original implementation, when you choose identity or individual account, you have the same thing in there, and that is a way to handle the component state in the Blazor WebAssembly server section. Okay, so once you have this, we can save. We need to register this in the program.cs file. So in here, we need to include server or states, so authentication state, then server or state provider, and that is a, let's grab the name well. So this is server or state provider. Okay. So the name that we have, we now go to the program and make sure we include the namespace. Yes, it is set already. So you register this. After that, we have to create an endpoint, and that's going to be sign out endpoint, and this is going to be a minimal API, so we can sign out. So let's also add a class to this, and this is sign out endpoint. Now with this sign out endpoint, we need to return endpoint convention builder, and this class, this must be static class as well, so we need to make it as internal static class. Okay, so map sign out endpoint. Okay, and now here we want to sign out from this, then we navigate to account.login. So with this, we have to also register. We go to the same program, and now down here, app.map sign out endpoint. So let's not forget, when you go to the route, you see that we added only authorized route view in .NET 7, and below you're supposed to add cascading auth state. Now this has been turned into a service, so we need to add that service. So maybe where we have this, you can put a service on top here, add cascading auth states. So aside from this, let's go to the client, and now in the client we need to also retrieve this auth state from this server auth state, so we need to create a class to handle that. So right click on the client, let's add a class to this, and I'm going to name it as client auth state provider. And now in here, so I'm going to change this to client auth state provider. Need to create constructor in here. So we are also going to retrieve the component state. You know, when this is called, when this class is called, we have a constructor here, so this is going to get called. And in that, in the server, we use this persist component state. So here we pass on to this, and now you want to try take. So we take it from here in the form of user model. We want to retrieve the claims that we have. We have only two claims, email and our name. And in that, we return this tags when we have the claims. So this is just client. We have to place it, and that is all that we are doing here. And it has this auth state has a default method, that is a get auth state. Okay, so we need to return this auth state. Since this is going to return a new instance of an auth state with the claim that we have retrieved from the server, we are good to go. Okay, so let's save this, and we have to also register this in the program.cs file. So let's register this and add this. So in the client, and this is I have to go in there and now just grab the name, client or state. You go to the program and quickly change it up. We add authorization core, cascading auth state again, and also let's add singleton of this auth state and the instance of the fake one that we created, client or state. So aside from this, we are going there to create our pages. So we need to create a CRUD component. So in that, I'm going to use the new scaffolded version of this. So let's see from here, all that I need to do here is to create my class. Now I have the DB context class created already. So I'll just have to create a class. Let's go to models and add a new model. And now this is going to be an employee. Now with the employee, we have these properties to be taken from employee. Once you're done in here, right click on the server, go to add new scaffolded item, and now in that we're going to choose Blazor component CRUD, and we wait for the we want the CRUD, we choose our model, and it's going to be an employee. You see it over here, DB context, you have it in there already. And for the database provider, we need not to select because default is SQL Server. Click on add, and I'm just going to install some packages in here, and I'm going to scaffold it and then create these 4 components for CRUD for us. Very simple one. That's great. So you can see it is done. We have our employees list, and this is the create. When you go to the solution, you can see that from here we have a component folder already, pages, and we have a new folder called employee pages. So in there we have all the CRUD in here. Okay, so now with this CRUD, this is going to use query. You want to use parameter. You don't use query. So we want to edit this a little bit. So I took time to go through this and I made some more changes in here. Okay, so I'll make this available as well. If you want to grab mine, or if you want to stick to this too, it's also available. You can also do it. Okay, so when you go to the index, so instead of referring to this as query string, you want to use parameter instead. So replace it with this as a parameter. Also, let's go to the edit. So solution, then go to the edit. Now the edit, instead of using parameter from query, we're going to change this to parameter itself. So parameter, we're going to use parameter in here. So we can post it anytime that you specify this. You want to navigate to this form, you must specify this parameter. And after doing this, we have to change the route and include the parameter in there. So the route, we have to specify the email parameter that we specified in here. Okay, now when you go to details, we have to also do same. So first of all, we need to also change the route and add parameter to this. Let me save this before. Then details, from here, let's specify the parameter in there. And aside from that, we go to the source code or the code behind, and also change this from query string or from query string to parameter in here. So now that we are done with this, we have to create other 2 pages. That is an about us and also contact page. Okay, so in that I just created some pages. You can just create an empty page and I'll link it. Okay, so here I just made some pages and I have them as about us page. It has its CSS class, and I have this contact page as well. So maybe for this about us, I'm not sure we need this class for now, so let's remove it. It is just a page to display just about us. And now here we are attributing, or we are using this authorized the policy of admin and user policy. It just says that only admin user can see this one. And contact us, the same thing. it is admin and user policy. Okay, so I have a simple about us or contact us form that you can fill. Okay, in that I think let's go to the nav manager, and now in the nav manager we need to make all the links. So there's a link that I'm doing in here. We have a home and navigating to the home, you know this. Then there's a list, it navigating to employees, and now there's the my details, it is navigating to what, the specific detail component, and now passing the email. Since we're going to be a parameter, we need to specify this parameter in here. So we create this and now we specify the link in here. You could have added it in here, but hey, well, that's my choice. You can also decide to put it in here. Okay, then we have about us, navigating to about us, and contact us, the same thing. Now when you have a look, we are saying this authorized view policy is admin user. So if you are admin or user, you can see this. If you are manager, you cannot see this. This is limited to only the user, because my details about us, contact us for admin and user only. When you go to logout, it is for anyone who is authorized. You can see this. If you are not, then register and log in for everybody. Okay, and now in here, how can we, so Blazor assembly policy. Now how can we retrieve the current state or current ID or the current email of the user? When the user logs in, we have the email there created and use it in the authentication state. So you want to retrieve the email from it. Then as soon as I click on my details, we want to pass on this email to this detail page. And now when it gets to the detail page, we are going to fish out the email from the list that we have and now assign it to the list of this instance of this employee, and that is going to get displayed in here. You see this? Yes, very simple one, and that is exactly what we are doing in here. Okay, so now that we have this set, let's save. And I created a simple footer for this, and maybe let me put this footer in here from these pages. Okay, so this is a footer that I'm using, very simple one, and just EMP app, it tells you this employee app, and we have to reference this. So in the app down here, we have to use this footer, and in our app we don't want to log in, we don't want to go to the home page once you've not logged in. So in the home page, when the page initializes, you want to check if you are not logged in, go to the login page. But if you are, then that's fine, it can be there. And we need to inject navigation manager. So that is it. We want to check if you are not logged in, then go to login page. But if you've logged in, and that is all. So nav manager, and that is it. Okay, now let's go in there and unbuild the whole project. Alright, so 2 succeeded, and that is all. Now we're going to run this application and see, since we have a table created. But when you check this, when you go to solution, when you check the migration folder, we've applied migration, or we created this using the scaffolded version of employee. When you go to the AppDB context, we have the class being added in here as employee list, but we are not having that table. So in order to do that, go to connected services. Then you must have a SQL server, this one. Right click on this, go to add migration, and here give it a name. So create EMP table. And now let's wait so we can select the DB class that we created. That is an AppDB context class. Yeah, so it is selected already. Click on finish to run this migration. After that, we're going to update this. So let's wait. That is done. So close. the same area and update database, and you're going to select the DB context class and update it. So finish, and now it is running, updating the database, and this is also done. So now let's run this app and check it out. Alright, so the app is ready. Now since we are not logged in, you can see now we've come to log in. Now let's go in there and register. So first we're going to say there's an admin at admin.com. The role is admin. The password is admin at 123. Admin at 123. Let's create this account. So this is created. Let's create another one. Let's create for manager. So manager at manager.com. The role is manager. Password is manager at 123. Manager at 123. Let's create manager account. Also created. Let's create one for the user. So user at user.com, and the role is user. Password is user at 123. User at 123. Click on create. Now account has been created. Now let's go in there to admin. Let's log admin in. Now you can see from the admin, you can see this administration. You can see the list. You can also see the user's views. User can see my details, about us, contact us, right? And now if authenticated, you can see logout. Either you are administrator, you are manager, you are user, you can see this logout. When you go to the list, you can see we have a list in here. Now let's create one employee. The email is, let's say it is an admin. The name is Netcode-Hub. The address is, then maybe you have the date of birth. Let's click on create. Then you can see it has been created. Now when it gets created, you can see you can have edit, detailed, and now delete. Let's also add another one. So let's add this user, and this is, so this is skip. Then 2023 added. Let's add one more, and that's going to be the user or manager, and this is, let's also create this. So we have 3 users created, right? Now if I go to my details, since I am admin, check it out. You can see there's an admin. So my details, I can see myself in here. Now if I go to about us, there's an about us, nothing is here. If I go to contact us, I have a simple form that I can contact. I can write something, okay? Then the list, I can edit this. Okay, so this is the name, edited. Click on save, and now save. So go back in here, so edited. Now let's go in again, and I remove this edited. Save this, go to the list, edited. So you can see this right here. I can go to detailed, and I can go back to the list or edit it. Okay, so back to the list, I'm here, and I can also delete this. Whoa, so for delete, we need to use the email instead of the ID. Okay, so maybe we can figure it out. Then let's log this out. Let's log in as manager. Log in as manager, and you can see manager cannot see the user's features. Manager can only see the list in here. So click on the list. Manager can edit, can find the details of this. So you can see edit. Manager can edit user details. Can just go back to the list. Now manager can also add a new feature to this. That's a new employee. Okay, let's go. Let's log out, and now let's log in as user, and now check it out. Because the user cannot see the list. User can see my details, about us, and I contact us, and I log out. So my details, you can see this is the user as user, and that's the detail in here. And I can see back to the list. This shouldn't have happened because you don't want the user to go back to the list. Okay, so you can see back to the list. We don't want this to happen, so we can handle that as well. And when you go to about us, you have it in here, contact us, my detailed home, and that is it. You see? So let's handle this. My detail back to the list. Let's handle that. So we can do that from the details. And now here, back to this list, we need to change that. So this is what maybe we can do. We can say if authorized view here, and if it is admin or manager, that is what we want to see back to the list. If it is user, it's only edits. Okay, and now let's go back to the edit page as well. So from the edit here back to the list, we want to check if it is user, that is where, or if it is admin user, back home. If it is admin manager, back to the list. Okay, and you know, from the employee, from the delete section, let's also figure that one out. So this is going to be, you want to return an email, and now with this email, instead of this apply parameter, this is going to be just a parameter, route parameter, and this won't be string, this won't be ID, rather string, this won't be ID, rather email. And now with this email, you want to check if email is equal to this email. In case you find that, then remove that. Okay, so after removing, that is all. We don't want to navigate. Okay, you want to navigate to the list. Well, this can happen, and that is it. So this also solved. Now we can just run this up and check it once more. Okay, so let's reload this again. So let's log in as user. So my details, and you can see we have only edits. You cannot see the delete or back to the list. So you can edit this as a user. So Frederick edited, and save this and go back again. You can see it's edited. Then about us, everything is working. Log out. Now if I log in as manager, go to the list, I might see Frederick edited from the user session. You see I'm seeing it in here, right? I can also go to details. Then if I want, I can delete this. So let's say if I click on this delete, I still have, we did not set that, and that was happening in this. So instead of this ID, nope, this is what we need to do. Yes. Okay, so let's see if this page gets, okay, so if I click on, I want to delete this user, click on delete, yes. So I want to do this. If I click on delete, I can just go back to the list. So delete, it got removed, and I'm back to the list. I can go in there and add the same person again. Click on create, and now it has been added in here. We are going to implement policy-based authorization with custom requirement in .NET 8 Blazor web application. This implementation can be applied to all the render modes, including WebAssembly interactive server, and also interactive auto. That's a combination of the server and the WebAssembly. If I say custom requirement, what do I actually mean? That is the logic that I want to perform. I want to verify before I get the user authenticated to access a certain content or a certain component. So let's say user creates an account, user logs in, we have the claims saved, and it has been assigned against that user. A certain component that you want to authenticate the user here on, you want to check if that user is above 18 years. So in this case, we need to use custom requirement, and that is what we're going to have a look today. Now the first thing to do here is we're going to add date of birth, because we're going to check if the user who wants to access that specific component is greater than 18 or greater or equal to 18 years. That is our requirement. So in order to do that, we have to first add this property to the identity user. You know, initially we did not create identity user. We did not create an extended class for that. We went straight ahead and I used the identity user. So when you go to the service, you see from here that using this add identity call, we added the identity user straightforward. When you check the AppDB context class that we created from this data folder, AppDB context class, you can see that here we use this identity user straightforward. So this identity user does not contain a property that we can use to store date of birth. So we have to add it ourselves. And in order to do so, we must create a class which extends or which is going to inherit from this. So I'm going to make this as app user. Now this app user, I'll go to the solution, go to the data folder, right click on it. We're going to create a class and I name it as app user. Well, you can change the name of this class to any name at all that you like. So you can change it. So app user. Now this app user is going to extend the class of identity user. So aside from extend this class, we need just a property addition to what we have already. So we're going to add one property in here as date of birth. Okay, so we're going to add this. Now once you have this class created and which is inheriting from this identity user, we go to the AppDB context. You can see it has been linked already. We go to the program.cs file and let's see. We have to also change this to app user. Then we need to include the namespace. It has been added already. Aside from that, we need to go to the login page and at the register page so we can use this in the sign in and at the user manager. So you can see from here we have this user manager, we have sign in manager. We are no more using identity user, we are using app user. So you make sure you replace them and include the namespace as well. We do same to the register page, and now here user manager, let's use app user, include the namespace as well. Okay, so this is done. Now we're going to build this project and see if everything is working as expected. If it works, then we're going to apply migration. So when you have a look in here, we have this user manager, app user. And now when you come here from the register endpoint, we need to include the date of birth. So we have date of birth. And we need to create a property in here. So when you go to this register model, that is found from the models folder. You see we have the sign up model. We need to include one property, and that is date of birth. So it's supposed to be date time, isn't it? So date time, and I will call this as date of birth. Okay, now let's go to register component, and then here we need to assign date of birth to registration dot date of birth. Okay, so this is what we need to do. And here we're not going to create an identity user. you're going to create an instance of app user, because that is a new identity that we're using. Okay, so we have this, and that is it. Now when it comes to the claims that we are creating, we need to actually add, because now we have date of birth, so we need to include that. Let's make a duplicate of this, and our claim types dot date of birth. We are now going there and I'll select date of birth from the model. Then we need to convert this to string. You can convert this to short string or long string, whatever. You can actually convert it, okay? But for now, let's maintain this, what we have. So we have these claims, and as soon as you create an account, these claims are going to be added against this specific user that we are creating it here. Okay, let's build the project. So let's go in there and perform database migration. So let's go in there, and I want to delete the old one. Now let's apply a new one. So let's update the database. Okay, so this is set. It is done now. The next thing that we're going to do here is to create our custom requirement. So let's create a folder. And let's name this folder as custom requirement. Now within this custom requirement, we're going to create our first class. So we're going to have a requirements class, we're going to have a handler. So requirement is going to take in the property or parameter that we're going to specify as yes. Then we're going to implement it in the handler. Okay, so let's have a minimum age. So there's a minimum age custom requirement, right? So you can make it in any name that you want. So you're making it as minimum age requirement. Now this minimum age requirement, what you do here is we can create a constructor, but with the help of C# version 12, let's use your year. So we're going to specify in the year that we want. Okay, so 18, that's the year that we're going to specify. So let's pass in year here, and we're going to inherit from authorization requirement. So we need to include the namespace for this, and that is all. So this is all that we need to do. So when you call this method, we need to specify the years. Okay, let's save this. So now we have our requirements. We need to create our handler. So we can create the same handler here. Let's add a class, and this is minimum age handler. Now this minimum age handler, we want to inherit from this. We pass in the class that we created as a requirement, and now it's an abstract, so we need to implement an interface in here. That's a handler requirement async. We have the context, and we have the class that we created as a requirement. Okay, now the motive here is you want to check if the user is not authenticated. We want to return. So let's first check if the user is not authenticated, place the return. In case the user is, or in case we do not have the claim type as date of birth in the person's claim stored, then also return. So that's why we're checking if the claim type is not found. If it doesn't have this, then return. But in case it has it, then what are we going to do? We're going to get the date of birth. We're going to extract it from that claim. Then we're going to pass it to date to change to the datetime format, because you know the claim here is a string type. So we're going to pass the datetime to form an object of datetime. Then we're going to check, we're going to divide it by 360. So you can say this is a year, right? So we get this in the number. We want to extract, get the years. We get a number of days in here. So you can see from here that here we get the datetime.now. We're going to subtract the new date, the date of the birth from the person. We're going to subtract from the today's date. Then when you have the number of days, you're going to divide it by 360, because you want to get it in the total days. The total days divided by 360 will give you the years. We're checking if the year is greater than or equal to 18. Then we want to return succeed. In case it is not, we want to return completed. Okay, so if it is not, then it's going to return this won't run at all. In this case, the user won't be authorized. But now this runs, it means the user is now authorized. And at the end, we want to return. So that's what you want to do. We have a requirement created, set and done. What you need to do here is to register this requirement. So where can we register this requirement? I believe you're saying that definitely we have to register this in the program.cs file. Is that so? Yes, that is it. So let's go to that program.cs file and I'll do the registration. So that's the program.cs, and now down here, maybe we can do our registration. So we're going to register the handler. That we create a minimum age handler. We're going to register it in here. Okay. So now that we are done, we want to set this against the user. So if any user wants to access the system, the user must first get authenticated. Second, the user must have a role, either admin or user role. The third one here is we want to specify the requirement. So in the user's claim stored, which will be retrieved, we want to check if the age is greater than or equal to 18. If it is not, return unauthorized. But in case it is, then return through or success and or succeeded and etc. And now keep moving. Okay. So this is a requirement that we are adding to this. And now this is limited to only this admin user policy. So any component that you use this policy, if the person is going to be authenticated, it's going to be checked if it has the age greater than 18. If not, it won't be applied, but unless it is greater or equal to 18. So in order for us to check whether the rule or the policy has been satisfied, or the user claim has satisfied the policy, we can go to the home component. So component in here, pages, home, and now in here I want us to replace this, so we can check. You can put a breakpoint and I'll check it up in here. So let's put breakpoint here. And before we do that, we also have to inject authorization service. Let's inject this. And this is coming from control period Microsoft.ASP.NET Netcode-Authorization. So this is where it's coming from. Okay. This is set and done. Now what we're going to do here is, let's go to SQL Server Object Explorer. We're going to refresh this folder to get a new database. We're going to open it, open tables. Then we're going to wait for this to get reloaded and check our ASP.NET users. So in here, let's open this. And our ASP.NET claims, let's open this as well. Okay, so currently empty. Now let's run this application. We're first going to create user in here. We specify the date of birth, but before we do that, we have to add a form to this. We did not add a form. So when you go to register, we have the property set, but we did not update the form. Alright, so this point is hit. We can click on continue. Now this page will run, but we're not going to see, the register form, but we don't have any place to add date of birth. So we need to update this as soon as possible. So let's go to our component, the same register component, and we're going to update that. So sign up. So register page, that is this one. And from aside from specifying the row, we can actually put it here. So email, date of birth, then row. So we can add this in here. So you have an input date, and we have the date bound to this model property, and that is it. So let's save this, and let's see if we're going to reload and have the date section in here. If not, then we're going to manually reload it. Yes, we have it. So let's start creating this. We need an admin at admin. Let's choose the date. So maybe it is going to be 5/3/1978. So that this person will be over 18 years. This is admin. And you know the password. You're going to have admin at 123. Now let's create the account for the admin. Created. Let's create one for manager. Let's choose the date. So this is manager. Let's click on create account to create manager. Now you're going to create user, and now the year we're going to make it 03/03/2020. So 2020, this person will be less than 18, right? For testing purpose, and now here we're going to say user. So click on create to create this user account. So when you go to the table, and now when we check, you see we're going to have these 3 users created to this table, and that is what we have in here. When you go to ESPnet users, you're going to have 3 users with separate or different claims. So if you check here, we have the claim types, the name, email, and row. Name, email, and you have date of birth as well. So you see name, email, row, and date of birth. Now you can see from here, that is 2020, this is 1999, and that is 1978. So you can see these are the various date of birth. Okay, so we're going to extract this and I convert it in our handler, and I'm going to check it into an integer. Then we can now make the check, and that's what we've done. So in order to do this, we're going to apply. You go to the program. We're going to apply this requirement. Okay, so you've applied it already, and that is it. Yeah, I never forgot it. Okay, so now that we have this, we're going to let's log in. So if I log in as admin, log into this, we go to the endpoint, and now here you can see that user is authenticated, and now when we check, we have everything set. If you want to check against this admin user policy, you can see from here that succeeded, right? So here admin is greater than 18. And if admin is greater than 18, it means admin can see everything. So you can see admin can create a list, detailed. Okay, so this page, we haven't created that. And about us, and contact us, so admin can see this. Okay, so maybe we can add list in here. Let me just, so date of birth has been added already, right? So maybe we can still add a date of birth. Since we're creating an employee, there's going to be another one. So let's add admin. We can also add user. So this is manager. So 02059. Create this. Let's add user as well. So user and 02/02/2020. Create this. Okay. So when you go to my detailed, then we can view the user detail. Okay. Now let's log out. That is an admin. He can see everything. So we need to log out. And okay, so let's see account/logout. So let's figure this out. We go to our source code, and in here, let's say from the endpoint that we created. Okay, so here you should change this to app user instead of identity user because we've created a new. Now let's run this again and check it out. Okay, so breakpoint hit, continue on. And let's see. Yeah, now let's log in as admin. So success, we're going to click on continue again. And we are in. So let's click on logout. Yeah, so we are logged out. Now let's log in as manager and see this. Now let's check in here. Now when you check this, you can see that it failed. The reason is, you can see the reason is over here. So let's see the count. And now the row here is saying that this row should be admin or user. The manager is not found in here. So this current user does not belong to any of these rows. And that is the reason why we have the field. Okay, so click on OK. And in here, we have only the list, which is for the manager can have access to. Let's log out. And now we are much focused or interested in the user. Let's log in. And now check it out. Succeeded is false. Let's find the reason why. When you check the failure reason, it tells you that minimum age requirement. It means the user could not satisfy the minimum age requirement, which is 18. And it tells you that the user here, it is lesser than 18 years. So in this case, our custom requirement is working. So you can see that since the user is lesser than 18, the user cannot see any of the links in here, and that's the detailed page, contact us, and about us. He can only see this logout. You see this? Now let's go to this table, and I'll make some amendment to the list, and that is a claim in here. Now for this claim, the user here is what? 2020. So in case we change this to maybe 2000, the user is now 2000. Let's save this. Maybe let's refresh this. Yes, 2000. Now when you go back to this page, and now let's log out. Let's log in and check it out. So it succeeded, isn't it? Now click on continue. Now the user can see my detailed, about us, contact us. So you can see that here, if the user's age does not exceed or equal to the required age specified in the policy, the features that you applied or the component that you apply this policy on is going to be hidden from the user. But in case it fits or is equal to or greater than, then you can see the user can see everything that is supposed to see. So that is it. That's a way to implement policy-based authorization with custom requirements. Yes, so I believe you've learned something today as well. Thank you guys for watching, and I'm going to catch you up in the next video. Till then, take care.